I believe L. Ron Hubbard, as a megalomaniacal sort of, power hungry, love to con people, love to mess with people kind of guy. And Hubbard did. Hubbard definitely, he said some things in a few lectures over the years that indicate to me in hindsight that he kind of had a thing about screwing with people and sort of just seeing what would happen. Let's try doing this. Let's try doing that. Let's mess with this guy and see what happens. Let's do this over here. And, almost whimsical attitude about it. Oh, let's see what happens if I give this guy 5 times as much, medication as he should have. There was experimentation being done in the early 50s in Scientology with drugs and medications and stuff, and seeing whether that affected auditing. And Hubbard was getting people high, basically, and auditing them. And I was just trying to remember the name of that drug, and I forgot, diazepam or something like that. Anyway, Hubbard was a guy who was interested in people and messing with people. And I think that was sort of his thing. That's one of the things I get from L. Ron Hubbard and his writings and lectures and stuff, is he was just into manipulation as a hobby, kind of thing. And he got really good at it. And he was a philanderer. He was into manipulating people sexually, intellectually, through Dianetics, through Scientology, financially, of course, all of this, because Hubbard was getting money from people all over the place, rarely paying. He was one of those guys that would borrow the money and not pay it back. That was Hubbard. And then, of course, he starts Dianetics and Scientology. He's got so much money coming out of his ears that he doesn't even know what to do with it all, but he still manages to go bankrupt anyway. That's Hubbard. So I think he really dug controlling people. And he seemed to go, he seemed to be a bit bipolar in terms of whether he liked people or not. He seemed to have, at least praised them, talked about them in glowing terms, was always lifting people up in some fashion, just so a couple days later he could cut them off at the knees, knock them down, and watch them fall. Or blame them. He was into the same thing Miscavige does, where he'd lift people up to his level, his position of power, his inner circle, and then generally groom them to be scapegoats, so that when he screwed up in some significant and spectacular fashion, he's got somebody to blame for that. That's Miscavige, that's Hubbard. It just routinely, that's just a habit they had as leaders, as cult leaders. Trump certainly doesn't have a problem scapegoating people, but Trump is more, I don't see Trump as somebody who enjoys or tries to mess with people just to mess with them. I see Trump as somebody who is bigger, who is into the sales and the art of the deal sort of thing, right? I don't take that book seriously. What I mean is he's into the showmanship of his positions. And he's into being noticed and recognized by as many people as he can at any time, TV, radio, news, whatever. As long as his name is out there, and as long as people are saying it, and preferably chanting it, the better. The more in charge he feels, the more secure he feels. Because what Hubbard and Trump both share is a psychological problem of a level of self-doubt and self-loathing even that is so strong, it's actually hard for you and I to imagine. It's really, really powerful. It's sort of at the core of who they are, is they are people who really don't like themselves very much and consider that they are not all that. And that's kind of apparently at the root of narcissism, is this fear and uncertainty and almost crippling levels of self-loathing and self-doubt. And so to compensate for that, to deal with that core problem that they have at a very basic level of their identity or personality, they overcompensate by talking about themselves, lying about themselves as a routine matter of course, and using those lies and using that bluster and that sort of con attitude, that con man attitude, to control and dictate to other people what they need to do and how they need to service the megalomaniac, the Hubbard or the Trump, in order so that they can feel better about themselves, can feel like they are not scum of the earth, horrible, awful people that they kind of know they are, because they engage in activities that are criminal in nature, that are outright wrong on any moral compass, whether it's sexual assault, whether it's financial irregularities, you could say, financial crimes, right? Embezzlement, et cetera, bribery, these kind of things. I mean, this is the bread and butter of Trump's empire, is criminal financial irregularities, and of course overt manipulation of whoever needs to be manipulated, so that for Trump, for example, he's in charge, he's in control, and he's validated and acknowledged as the great leader or the great businessman or the great dealer or the great entrepreneur, that he needs to hear that from people in order to continue living a life where he feels like he has some worth. That's the headspace of a narcissist and a megalomaniac, and they accumulate this power to them as a defense mechanism, as a buffer from the threatening world around them that is trying to do them in all the time. Everything is taken personally. Everybody who slights them in any way is an enemy who must be destroyed at once, because that person is saying out loud stuff that Trump is already thinking in his head and cannot live with, cannot accept. There's this whole denial thing going on too. Like, they know how screwed up they are, and then they deny how screwed up they are, and then they build this layer cake of ego on top of that. And that's your narcissist, as I understand it. Hubbard, Trump, lots and lots of things in common there. But whereas Hubbard had a knack for, or a bent towards, manipulating individuals and forming groups, but he was not really that great of a leader or manager or organizer, and he didn't really deal well with groups. He really was bad at it. This is why Mary Sue and other people had to be in his orbit who could deal with this and could sort things out better than he could. Because Hubbard's true nature in terms of running groups, running activities, was shown in 1950 when he got success. In 1951, 1952, all that time period, Hubbard blew it over and over again. And he really displayed to the entire world that he has no organizational or business sense, and he needed other people to help him out with that. Trump, I don't know the deal with his business sense, but I think it's a little bit better than Hubbard's was, because he was raised in an environment, Trump was, where business and the deal and real estate and all this kind of stuff was much more prominent in his life growing up as a kid. And he grew up in a monster factory, of course. I mean, his home life was absolutely horrible. I mean, you wouldn't want to have any child grow up in that household. It was absolutely torture for him. And so he turned out the way that he turned out. And I'm not saying it's a complete nurture argument with Trump. There might be nature there too in terms of his genetic problems or issues. I can't really say one way or the other. What we can judge is the behavior, and the behavior is clear that it's megalomaniacal, and it's very, 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 very egotistical. But it seems to be, for me, that Trump is more about controlling large swaths of population and business deals and big projects, and that's kind of his thing. Hubbard was more fine-tuned. And I think if I was going to say, I think it comes down to maybe the word proclivity or impulse or interest. Like, what is it about Hubbard that makes him different from Trump? Is he just liked messing with people? I guess that's really the best way I can say it.